And in those days, it was before Thatcher, beer was cheaper than milk.
Right.
So we started drinking beer. Even if we didn't like it at the beginning.
Like, whatever.
We drank it, and that's how I started drinking beer.
Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 123 of Beer Another Shit, the podcast. This afternoon, it is freezing, but we are in the original. Is that accurate? The original brewpub in Montreal.
Yes.
Yes,
in
with Jérôme.
Quebec.
In Quebec as well.
It's permit 001.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that with Jérôme from the Cheval Blanc. Sir, genuine pleasure. Nice to meet you. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, we've lived in Montreal for about 6 or 7 years, and when we first moved, we were like Papineau and Sherbrooke, and we never came here. I don't know what happened.
It's because we have a wall. We don't let the
They let them
come
in. The East End?
Yeah.
Gotta keep them out. We don't want them in here.
No.
This place is awesome, man. I'm very impressed. It looks like it's got some history in it.
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Yeah. It's strong.
Yeah, it's strong. What is it?
You're going to have hard time finishing your show.
Happens every time. It's like 45 minutes in, it's a mess. What's the ABV on this one? It's nice. It smells super.
I don't know. It's 7.4%.
7? That's not bad. Yeah, I like that. Nice and fruity. What hops are in this one?
I don't know the ABUs in there, and I don't see the hops in there.
Let's see that.
There's a specialty hop. There's noble hops. I know he put in noble hops, but I don't exactly know.
I'll look it up.
My brewer's name is Isael.
Oh, I've heard about him. Okay.
Yeah, he's really good.
So you don't personally brew anymore?
No, I do sometimes some, when you brew with another brewer.
Collaboration?
Yeah, I do that. But here it's Isael's kitchen.
Right, you let him take the reins.
He does everything, yeah.
Okay.
And he's young and talented, and I'm old and useless. So.
Well, you have, like you said, permit. What does it say? 0001.
Yeah.
Recently, we actually we interviewed Stan at Golden
I know
Lion.
him well.
Yeah. So that was our biggest. I've never seen people respond so much.
Stan has an industrial permit.
It's a different thing.
He started brewing a year before me. He has the same permit as Molson. Because the permit I had didn't exist. Stan would have probably taken my permit if he could have had one. But he took the industrial permit, so that's why his brewery is separated from the pub.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And so you have a brew pub license?
Yeah, I have a brew pub
as opposed to the industrial?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess back then, so he was 86, I believe, so you would have been 87.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's so
yeah, and the thing is, everybody's mixed up now because afterwards, a lot of breweries in the region, like Stan, opened up with industrial permits, but they more or less look like brew pub permit. They mostly sell on premise, because Stan sells mostly on premise.
Right. Yeah. But he started bottling now, and I guess they're...
Oh, he's always been bottling, but he's not a guy that's
like
going to go... Thing. He's not going to distribute. He doesn't have time to.
Yeah.
He's always
trying
drinking.
To keep up. Yeah.
Stan's a drunk.
I guess aren't we all, in some way? You kind of have no choice.
Stan he got a trophy from the ABQ, and I was supposed to give it to him. He didn't. Well, he showed up, but he was sick, so he went back home. He never got. So I went to bring it to his brewery. I said, Stan, I'm coming on Saturday. I show up, he's not there. That's Stan Groves.
That's how he gets down.
He's always been like that, though.
It's amazing. Hey, it's consistent if nothing else.
Oh, yeah. At a Mondial once, he was on the... It was so hot. It was the first Mondial. It was 40 Celsius at Place des Arts. And he was standing up. He was fed up. So he had this huge cowboy hat. He stand up on the table and decided that the beer was free. So you should have seen the people go to his pub. And everybody else was panicking. And Stan was singing on the table. And he's a good guy.
He is a good bloke.
He's a true brewer, true craft brewer.
At heart, in his blood. Did anyone film that? I hope someone. No, just gonna have to. You had to have been there.
No, in those days we didn't have even cellulars, nothing.
When was the first Mondial?
Oh gosh, it's
like 90s.
26 years ago.
Okay, I didn't know it was that old. Okay, that's crazy. So then it was fascinating talking to Stan because I didn't realize at the time the tourism office set that up, so I didn't know who he was. And then it blew my mind when they were like, "That's the first brewery." I'm like, "What?" So when I put that content, when we put it out, a lot of people were saying, "Oh no, Cheval Blanc is," and then I kept getting confusing information as far as what.
I'm the first brew pub.
You're the first brew pub in Quebec.
But Stan opened up at the same time as another brewery that was called Massawippi.
Okay.
And Massawippi, the beer was awful. And it was at Massawippi, Lake Massawippi. It was not far from Stan's place.
Okay.
And Massawippi didn't go well. They moved to Lennoxville at a certain point in time. And then they were bought by a guy that was called André Dion.
Okay.
And André Dion is the founder of Unibrew. He bought the permit, and then he founded Unibrew in Chambly.
Right, so you can move the permit then, I guess.
Yeah, he moved the permit, yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So they were...
Because he had an industrial permit, and Andre wanted an industrial permit.
Right.
And they were hard to get.
Even back then?
Yeah.
There probably wouldn't have been too many.
Why.
Probably because it didn't exist. Like, the whole concept of just somebody starting a brewing business is foreign, right?
Gosh. The first time I went to buy malt at Canada Malting, I went there for 5 bags with my pickup truck. And the guy says, "Yeah, but who are you?" I said, "I'm a brewer. I want to buy malt." And they had like 3 clients, O'Keefe, Molson, and Labatt, and they were exporting to Belleville. That was their other client. And yeah, but he says, 5 bags. What are you talking about? So they sent me to the office, and then I went into the office and I said, "I want 5 bags." And it took them like half an hour. They called the government to see if I was legit, if I was not in the mafia or something. And then finally they said, "Okay, we'll sell you 5 bags. Go back down." They made me a bill. Then when I came to pay, I had paid cash.
Right.
But they never saw cash in their lives. They sell to Molson and Labatt and stuff like that.
Right,
and I had just the bucks on the door. The girl says, "What do you want to do with those dollars?" I mean, so that's how far away it was in those days.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then to go from the very beginning, how did you get into beer and brewing?
Oh, gosh, that's even worse. I had the tavern before. This is a family business. It's a real tavern.
In this location?
It used to be a real tavern. When I took it over from my uncle, my uncle didn't accept women because you were allowed in Quebec before to refuse women in taverns.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, is a tavern a
little bit Ireland, they separate
do that
the
there?
women.
Yeah.
No, but the same thing. The Catholic religion had a very
Oh,
important.
like in that way. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Is a tavern a pub restaurant or is it like a hotel?
Tavern was only beer.
Only beer. They only sell beer.
You were not allowed. It was the tavern permit was only beer, and you had an exemption on taxes for the beer because it was for the workers.
Right.
Until the 80s, 70s, no, late 70s, it was like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I took it over, I had to renovate a little bit to put toilets for women and fix it up a little bit, and that's how we started.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get into beer like in college or university?
No, I'm Italian descent, so my uncle and my grandfather who had the tavern were Italian also, and they drank mostly wine. So we were mostly drinking wine.
Okay.
But when I took over the tavern, I had experience with beer because my sister had moved to England, to London, and I spent a summer there. And in those days, it was before Thatcher, beer was cheaper than milk.
Right.
So we started drinking beer, even if we didn't like it at the beginning.
Like, whatever.
We drank it, and that's how I started drinking beer again.
That's amazing.
And now I hardly drink wine. I have a problem with wine now.
Yeah?
I mostly drink beer.
Is that just the wine, you just don't like it anymore?
No, my body doesn't like it anymore.
Oh, it's one of those? Yeah.
I don't know. I fall asleep all the time with wine.
Like red wine is completely, what do you call it? Like depressant. Like even more so. Like alcohol's a depressant, but red wine, I think there's something in the enzymes from the grapes.
Oh yeah, but anyways, I hardly take wine now. I take white wine with my wife sometimes at night, and that's about it.
Right, sticking to beer. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I compensate with beer.
Yeah, you make up for it.
I've been compensated for 40 years.
Doing well. I love it. So then when you took over the tavern, so did you start, when did the brewing come in?
87.
87 when you started?
Because I went to New York City for a show, another show. My wife had a show there. And I was with another guy, and while the girls were at the show, we went bar hopping, and we fell upon a bar, brewpub that was called Manhattan Brewery.
Okay.
I don't think it exists anymore. And there was a brewpub, and we tasted these beers, and we said, wow, this is really cool. So when I came back, I started researching how to get a permit to make beer.
Right.
And in Ontario, brewpubs had opened.
Okay.
And I went to see Stan, who had just gotten his permit. And I said, Stan, can you maybe set me up a brewery? And he says, yes, but it never happened. So I bought a kit that was made in Ontario. But before buying the kit, I had to get the permit, which did not exist.
Right.
So it took me a year to convince governments and,
to do it,
and bureaucrats and the whole shit
to
issue a new permit, because we were not allowed downtown to have an industrial permit. So we had to have this
like
absolutely brewpub permit.
Right.
So it took. I started in '86 and I got it in '87. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Trailblazing, I love it. So then I guess the brewpub permit incorporates brewing on premise as well as food.
Yeah.
Is that generally how it works?
Yeah,
that's why you can't sell
here we're
bottles
not.
and stuff.
We have food, but it's not our main business.
Gotcha. Is that
I'm not at McDonald's, or you don't come here to eat and then maybe have a beer.
Right.
You come here to have a beer, and we have food if you're hungry.
Right. So you started in '86 applying for the license. You took over the tavern in '86.
No, I took the tavern over in '81.
In '81. So you were running it just as a pub.
Yeah, I ran it as a tavern. And we had the beginning, and we started having imported beers at the beginning. We had Newcastle and Bass.
Right.
And we thought that was really out of the ordinary.
That's crazy.
You were really, hey, at the Cheval Blanc, they've got Bass, and those days, that was a big thing there.
Right.
And then we started having Belgian beers.
Okay.
And then we started making Belgian beers. And we did that for a hell of a long time. But now we don't brew much Belgian beers anymore. It's the consumer doesn't really go for that. Yeah.
More American styles.
Well, yeah, really North American styles.
North American styles.
Yeah, but I'm pretty proud of that the microbreweries, the new generation, was able to forge their own styles and not copy off. I think it's too bad we call the IPAs because they're not really IPAs. They're North American, very hoppy beers.
Yeah, completely different styles.
They have nothing to do with an IPA from Great Britain.
That is very true.
Yeah.
That is good because a lot of people don't feel like that. Some people, have you noticed in beer, people are purists. They're like, oh, why are you making these brewed IPAs or milkshake IPAs when beer should be like this?
No, but that's I know, my friend from La Chouffe, one of my best friends is La Chouffe, and he's really upset with these new styles. And Belgium has its own styles. They have acidic beers, and they have lambics, and they have all sort of stuff. And I don't know, I think in North America, the boys and girls started went into a direction that is interesting. It's not my favorite beers, but we have half of our beers here are like that now.
Right.
And that's North America. It's like a Chardonnay from I don't know, California or Washington State or Oregon is not a Chardonnay from France. It's much more pronounced in taste, and that's what the brewers are doing right now, craft brewers in North America.
And you support, you think that's positive?
Oh, yeah. IPAs at the beginning, I had a hard time drinking that. And before Israel, it was Eloi that was the brewer here, and he's co-proprietor of Dunham Brewery now.
Okay.
And Eloi started pouring hops in the beer, and you're crazy. You can't do this to my tavern.
Did you say Eloi? It was Eloi?
Eloi.
Oh, yeah, we interviewed him. He's awesome.
Yeah, Eloi. He worked 18 years for me.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you know what? He probably did say that. I'm usually, as you said, half drunk in these. I always forget.
He is a drunk,
That's sick.
yeah. And so he started pouring hops in the beer, and this costing us an arm and a leg and hops also. I said, "You're crazy." He says, "No, the people like that now." And I started drinking, and I got used to it. The wild beers, I'm more or less used, but I it's because of my age. It just burns my stomach at a certain point of while. I can't take it anymore. Because I used to drink Orval in 1989, 89. Oh yeah, 89, 90s. I used to drink Orval.
It's probably intense for back then.
And we had imported 5 cases of Orval at the Cheval Blanc in those days. Nobody wanted to drink that because they all thought they were drinking grass. and finally, my brewer, Marc, before he left, me drank the 5 cases.
Right, just
so
crushed.
You know, I'm used to the taste, but there's some guys are tough, you know, to drink. Yeah,
I guess it's a whole.
But
that change.
The younger people really like it. Like yesterday, I went around the bar and everybody was glad, and they really like these new funky tastes. So that's life.
They're super popular. It's it's fun. It's good to see that. I just keep seeing so many people who have been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe like not as progressive. So it's nice to see that you're like all for it, all for the
sure.
experimentation.
That's well, it's the essence of craft brewing.
It's true. That innovation.
I mean, we finally, I'm not of that generation, but I find it pretty cool that they stopped copying beers and making something funky
and new
to
them.
And I find that interesting.
Okay, so just to get the timeline down, Tavern 81. What were you homebrewing? Did you like homebrew?
Yes. Oh, I forgot to tell you that part.
It's okay.
I started homebrewing. And I was member of an association that was called CAMRA, Campaign for Real Ale. We had that in Montreal. We were like a small team of terrorists, and we would go to one bar and encourage a bartender to switch to Guinness and Bass. That was the only thing there was in those days, Newcastle.
Right.
And we would try to encourage bars to have these types of beers. And we used to have a meeting once a month at a bar downtown on Blue Ridge Street, an Irish pub. I don't remember the name. It was an Irish pub. I mean, we used to have our meetings there.
Okay.
I did that for 2 years or 3 years. And then I started to brew. I wanted to brew here.
Okay.
On premise.
So you went straight from straight.
Yeah, but there was no. You got to understand, those days there's no schools for brewing. There's nothing. There's no suppliers.
Right.
Like I gave you the example of Canada Malting. Canada Malting had I think 4 different malts. That was it. You couldn't buy anything else.
Okay, so like no dark
You bought
malts
Karistan, you had black malt, and you had two-row pale malt. That was it.
Wow.
So you had to blend with that. So you look at the first recipes at Saint-Ambroise and Boreal, Bellegueule Original, they're all on the base of Karistan.
Right.
Yeah. Because there was nothing else.
No choice.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you started brewing out of this facility, how did people respond to that? Because they never would have seen anything like this.
It was a huge success.
Yeah, straight away.
We ran out of beer right away.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there was a need that people didn't know they had.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Because we still had Molson on draft.
Okay.
When we started brewing our own beers, luckily because we would have sold nothing, we would have run out of beer. So it took us at least 1 year or 2 years. At least 2 years before we had enough tanks and enough equipment to supply the demand.
Right. So you're brewing out of here. Talk us through how it worked when you moved to a production facility to bottle the...
Oh, gosh. What happened is we sold the beer, started selling our beers in bottles on premise here.
On premise only, okay.
But you couldn't leave with them. You could just drink them here.
Right. Okay.
But we were re-fermenting bottles. They were Belgian beers, and we sold them, and everyone would say, Jérôme, you got to do something. So the only way I could take beer out of this brew pub was to sell to the SAQ.
Okay.
Which I did. Which was also very complicated because they didn't want to buy our beer at the beginning. I'm not interested, and I can understand why. Anyways, we finally convinced them with a lot of pressure from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, because in the law it said that the only way I could sell beer outside premise was through the SAQ, so they had to take my beer.
Right.
So they took it, and it was a huge success.
Right.
I ran out of beer right away. I couldn't supply. I couldn't even supply 1 week of beer. It was like, we used to make like a pallet every 2 weeks or something at the Cheval Blanc for the SAQ, and they would sell it in 3 days. So we had a serious problem. So finally, I decided to start a microbrewery in the Sud-Ouest on St. Patrick Street, and we did that for 3 years.
Right.
But I got discouraged with the whole scene of the dépanneur and the grocery stores and the pressure on you to sell beer. And I sold to Brasserie RG.
Man, I really appreciate your time. That was a lot of fun. Pleasure to meet you.
Okay.
Do you know where everybody can find Cheval Blanc online?
Online?
Yeah, like the website or social?
Well, it's Cheval Blanc. The website's Cheval Blanc. Your best is Facebook, because François never has time to
do the rest.
To do the rest on our website. We have a website, but you're better off on Facebook.
Hit them up.
Because our Facebook, right away what's going on at the Cheval Blanc. It's live all the time.
Everything's all the time. Yeah. And is it the Cheval Blanc pub versus probably like the beer? I'm sure like the brand would have a separate one.
Yeah, no. But if you type Cheval Blanc, it
comes up?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So check that out. Guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, mate, smash the thumbs up. Hit subscribe below. Hit the notification bell so you know when the new episodes drop. Follow us on social media at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long form audio so you can hear very attractive gentlemen like Uncle Jérôme here talk about beer. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.